Mr. Weingarten, do you know if I'm pronouncing the individual respondent's name correctly? Is it Petian?
That is correct, Cynthia Petian.
Okay, thank you very much. So over to you, Mr. Weingarten.
Yes, thank you. And it appears that no one is in attendance for the first appearance on behalf of either Novatech or Ms. Petion, who's also named as respondent. In light of the non-attendance of either the parties or any representatives for the parties, what I would propose today as a procedure that I believe will expedite the proceedings, and it consists of a first step, which would be the enforcement branch filing a motion in writing seeking certain relief that if granted, we think is going to significantly expedite the proceedings. What we would be seeking would be a waiver of any further notice or service obligations, as well as relief from the production of materials under Rule 27. This is a procedure that has been used in the Three Gold matter, as well as recently in another matter of Invest. What I would propose is that our motion materials be served and filed by November 17th, and that we not set a second attendance date today or set out an actual schedule for the exchange of Rule 27 materials. What I propose is to return or contact the registrar upon disposition of the motion one way or the other, either by order or by reasons and decision, and to set up a return date through the registrar at that time. At that time, we can re-attend, and we would be in a position to actually set mayor hearing dates at that time.
Question for you, Mr. Weingarten.
Yes.
Is there anything that distinguishes this situation from that in Invest or Three Gold that would warrant a different approach?
I think that generally the approach will be the same. I don't know at this time if we're going to be seeking relief to convert the ultimate merits hearing to a complete hearing in writing. No doubt you will recall from the materials that we filed in support of the extension of the temporary cease trade order that there were some witnesses that we have interviewed, and it may be that we would want to proceed in somewhat of a hybrid approach. So it may be that we're simply seeking to absolve the enforcement branch from its Rule 27 obligations, as well as future notice and service requirements. So that would be the same as was sought in both Three Gold and Invest, but we may not go as far as the relief that was sought in Three Gold.
Okay, thank you. Would you have any concerns about a slight modification to your proposal to set a return date? It can be modified if it's not necessary or if the date isn't appropriate, given the disposition of your motion in writing, and that way it just keeps us all focused on what the next steps might be.
I think that's an appropriate way to proceed.
Okay, thank you. According to this normal schedule, the second attendance would typically be 120 days from this attendance, which would take us to January 26th of 2024. Would that be a convenient date for you?
I think that we can return even sooner than that, with an aim to moving the matter along. Perhaps a return date either at the end of November or in early December. Our target for filing and serving our motion materials would be November 17th. And of course, I don't want to predetermine how the motion may go one way or the other, but I think either way that it's decided, it's in the public interest to return a little bit quicker than January to set this in motion one way or the other.
Okay, so if we were to set it end of November, I'm just looking for my hearing calendar. Give me a moment. I think the hog hearing is happening the last week of November. Are you engaged on that, Mr. Weingarten?
I'm not on that file.
Okay, thank you. So what about, I do have a hearing on those days of the last week of November, but I could do a 9 a.m. attendance on any of those dates, so November 27th through 30th.
I think November 27th would work. I'm happy to attend at 9 a.m.
Okay, November 27 at 9 a.m. for the next attendance, and then also do an order to indicate that staff will serve and file their notice of motion and motion materials with respect to the waiver of notice and further relief by 4:30 p.m. on November 17th.
Yes,
that was
thank you
your
very
intention?
much. That's the intention.
Okay. And then the last thing on my list is that we do have an affidavit from Ms. Pascuzzi, which I believe we should mark in as an exhibit in this proceeding. Does that make sense, Mr. Weingarten?
Absolutely agreed, as it's the affidavit of service concerning the notice of hearing today, as well as the statement of allegations. I think if we have I'm not sure if this would now be exhibit 1 because we're in a separate file number from the extension applications and motions, or whether or not the numbers will continue. I'm not sure.
I believe, and Madam Registrar can correct me if I'm wrong, that since this is a different matter than the extension of the TCTO, that we would mark it as Exhibit 1. Is that your understanding, Madam Registrar?
That is correct. Adjudicator Williams, this will be Exhibit 1.
Okay, thank you. And just for the record, Mr. Weingarten, it's an affidavit of service of Ms. Pascuzzi dated what date?
I have it right up here, just a moment's indulgence. September 20th, 2023.
September 2023, so that will be Exhibit 1. So I think that brings us to the end of our business for today, and I will issue an order that indicates that staff will serve and file their notice of motion and motion materials with respect to the waiver of notice and further relief by 4:30 p.m. on November 17th, and we will return for a second attendance in this matter at 9 a.m. on November 27th.
My apologies, I should have mentioned this earlier. I just wonder whether or not the order should set a date and time for any responding materials, if any, as well, so we don't leave that sitting out there.
Of course. And do you have a date to propose for that?
I would say the following week. We want to try to move this along as soon as possible.
Okay, so that would be November 24th.
Yes. I realize we're now approaching the date for a second attendance, but as you mentioned, we can adjust that if necessary.
Okay, so the order will indicate that any responding materials, if any, to be served and filed by 4:30 p.m. on November 24th. And then depending on if we receive those materials, if there's a need to adjust the second attendance date, you can do that through the registrar.
Absolutely.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Weingarten?
That's nothing else for this morning. Thank you very much, Adjudicator Williams.
Okay, thank you. Just let me take a quick look at my notes. I don't believe I have anything else. And so I think that's it, and we are adjourned for today.
Off the record.
Thank you.
Thank you.